As a leader in your business, how do you decide and how do you know what's next for you? How do you hire what's next for you? Is it a coach? Is it a therapist? Is it a consultant? I want to tackle that in today's episode because recently I was talking to a successful six-figure business owner and she asked me that same exact question. She said, Elizabeth, I actually am in therapy right now and I'm talking to a whole bunch of different coaches and consultants. What's the best advice that you have? Lucky enough, I also had created a freebie that does just this. So if you're looking for more clarity, somewhere in the description here, I have the freebie link where you could download and take an assessment on how to know whether you need to hire a coach or a consultant. But in this episode, I want to break down just from my own personal experience, but also from my professional experience talking to different audiences and prospects and working with different clients on how do you know what to hire next for you. Welcome to the Elizabeth Yang Show, where we explore the benefits of diverse leaders expanding your brand authority online to create massive impact and happy sales. Now, let's dive in because your legendary life is waiting. So let's tackle therapy for just a moment. I think of therapy as somebody that can really help you make sense of your past. If you keep running into issues in your present current state where you often are facing issues that brings you to your past, or there's this anxiousness or restlessness or even quite frankly trauma that comes from your past, I think that working with a therapist is a really great route to take. And quite frankly, therapists are much more likely to be certified and licensed in going into deeper, more complex mental health issues than I think a coach or consultant might. So, depending on the issues that you are hoping to find peace with from your past, therapy is a really great option for that. Personally, I've been in therapy and I've had many different coaches that I've worked with, which has really allowed me to uplevel myself, uplevel my mindset, and uplevel my knowledge set to be able to grow my business the way that I want to, yet still be present and loving to my kids and show up as a woman in a way that allows me to still feel empowered and beautiful and lead from a really feminine energy and find balance with my masculine energy too. So, if you have the ability to really work with the therapist and a coach, heck, why not? But therapy, I think, is best reserved for trying to make sense of the past. And usually, when people start on their healing journey or their self love journey, a lot of that really does start with trying to make sense of your past, trying to understand how your past has defined you, or in some cases, don't define you, and really finding forgiveness with that one thing or that one someone in your past so that you can begin to move forward. So, therapy for me really is about if you're at a place where you're just trying to make sense of the past and trying to come to peace with that. Now, let's talk about coaching for just a moment. Coaching, I think, is great when you're at a point in your life where you're thinking about the future. You're thinking about what's next for you with growth, and perhaps you are looking for more clarity, or you might already have a level of awareness of the issues that are holding you back in the present state that is preventing you from taking action to move forward with your dreams or your desires. So, for example, in my circumstance, it might be you have a level of awareness that you know you want to start your own business, you have clarity with what you want to offer, but perhaps you just don't know how to put a package or offer together, or perhaps you have a lot of fear that you are fully aware of, but you just don't quite yet know how to overcome them to move forward. A coach is really great for making sense of the future with where you want to go. So, a therapist is great to make sense of the past, whereas working with a coach, you're trying to make sense of where you're headed into your future. Now, let's talk about consulting for just a moment. A consultant is someone that you could work with that really is about the how to. So, for example, for me, I'm very much a coach and a consultant. I am not a therapist by any means. But for me, when I'm wearing my consulting hat, what we're really looking at is we're working on the business. When I'm wearing my coaching hat, we are working on the person. When I look at consultants, what I'm looking at is a deep expertise in perhaps the how to strategy or how to tactics of the business or the organization of where I want to go. So I'm trying to make sense of the business and like how to grow. So I'll give you an example for me on my experience when I'm talking to prospects when it comes to sales. And I'm trying to find out if I think that this would be a great win win fit for me and this other person. So I had one prospect who hopped on a call with me. She really wanted to grow at the time her real estate business, and she was at a ceiling income, like just limited ceiling cap. She just couldn't understand why she just couldn't break her next ceiling income. She had a ceiling, couldn't really overcome it, and she just wasn't sure why. So, as we were having this conversation, some of the things that I learned from her was that she had been in multiple jobs before, making very similar salary from one job to the next. She got into real estate because she thought maybe it was just her passion, and she started realizing that as she got into real estate, she started earning and making money, but the income was very comparable to what she had been earning when she had a job. So, in that conversation, I helped her realize that this income ceiling actually wasn't just because of the profession that she was in, which was real estate. It was something that was actually repeated as a pattern in all careers and jobs that she had when she was an employee to now being a real estate and working for herself. And in that moment, she realized that in the last, I think she said 7 years of her life, she's been pretty much earning the same. Now, in that situation, I did feel that it was possible that she would be a good fit to work with me from a coaching perspective. But as we started to dig deeper into some of the causes and reasons why she felt that she was at that ceiling, that income ceiling gap, I started to realize that she wasn't actually really passionate about real estate. She just got into it because she thought it was a lucrative profession, and she just wasn't really that passionate nor really had any interest in it. So for me, that's a big red flag because I personally, as a coach, love working with people who are very passionate about an area of expertise they're in. Now, I am a business coach and strategist, so for me, that's one of the qualifications that I look for. Now, if I was a life coach, this might have gone in a very different direction, but I'm not. So as I was listening to her, I realized that she really wasn't necessarily ready to work with a business coach nor a business consultant. What she was really struggling with was issues from her past. And this may have been better suited for perhaps a life coach or a trauma coach, or perhaps even a therapist. And as we began to continue that conversation, I realized that it started to get deeper and deeper to where she was truly emotionally very upset about some of the things that had happened in her past. And so my recommendation for her was to explore therapy and trying to come to peace with whatever had happened to her. She didn't share with me the details, but clearly I could tell she was very emotionally impacted by it. I ended up sharing with her that I just didn't think it was a good fit because I really felt that her issues weren't necessarily limiting beliefs or mindset and how to move forward with her business and her growth and her sales. It felt like there were still some really deep, 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 deep issues that she really needed to work through to make sense from her past. So that's an example of what I listen for when I'm talking to people is I'm trying to get a sense of, are they trying to be happy with their business because they've already made sense of their past and there's some element of peace with, and there's just maybe some limiting beliefs that are just like residue? that are still showing up in their business. And so they just need to maybe break down those limiting beliefs and install new beliefs because where they're headed is they're really committed to making sense of their future. That's an example of what I listen for when I'm looking at whether a person really is needs a coach, a therapist, or a consultant. Let me give you another example that I think you'll find beneficial as you're exploring like what to hire next for your own growth is another person that I spoke to that actually I invited to work with me and she became a client. And she also had trauma from her past. She actually had a very successful six-figure business that grew very quickly, like in 3 months of her launching it. She was so overtaken by that. In fact, that she made some poor business decisions in getting guidance from bookkeepers and accountants that really left her in a lot of debt that really traumatized her. And so by the time she was ready to start on her new business working with me, there was still a little bit of that business trauma that really still lingered. But in our conversations, what she focused or emphasized more on was her future. She wanted to build this new business in the future. She wanted to grow into that business. She was very aware that that's something that she was very passionate about. She knew in her heart that she was meant to be an entrepreneur, even though because of her first business, she had trauma and had quit her business and went back and got a job and became an employee. But through that process, she realized that she wanted to start this new business to move forward. But she felt that there was fear or trauma from her business that was still limiting her, making her hesitate to make certain decisions in her business. So we ended up working together, and I thought that she was a good fit, even though she had some remnants from her past that was still showing up because it wasn't the fact that she wasn't aware or that she hadn't yet made peace of that. She had made peace, but some of that was still lurking in her mindset. Some of that fear was still lurking in blind spots in her current mindset that was holding her back from her next level, from her future. And I truly, truly, truly believed that I could really help her do that. And so we started working together and she soon quickly launched her second business, and she's had great momentum with awesome, amazing four-figure offer to move forward. And she has had some amazing breakthroughs with installing new beliefs because of that work. So, what did these two have that were really different? The first person, her focus was what was behind her. It was really her past that she was bringing into her present, and she wasn't really even sure about the future that she wanted. Whereas the second person that started working with me was that she was aware of how her past was showing up in her present, but she was very focused on the future that she wanted. And that's how I knew that she was ready to work with me as a coach slash consultant slash strategist. So, those are just some insights on how to hire what's next for you. And I share that because I think sometimes we often think that there might be some negative connotations with therapy or coaching, but I think that you really need both. I think our identity is very rooted in making sense of our past, understanding what defines us, understanding what no longer defines us, how we're not identified by our past. Your past may be where you started, but it's not who you are now. And every single one of us has the ability to change and not repeat patterns from our past that was from our childhood or possibly passed down from our parents. But it is very intentional. It requires a lot of commitment and truly it requires support. We all have blind spots, including myself. And oftentimes I've learned throughout my business as I've grown that I have to be working with a coach. There's still a lot of parts and pieces of me, even though I've healed, even though I've upleveled my mindset, even though I've introduced new daily practices to keep me focused on where I'm headed. I still need a coach because I'm human. I need someone who can see my blind spots, who can also see my genius and brilliance, when I'm being overly critical and harsh on myself. Coaches do that. I need someone like that in my corner. That's how you can tell the difference. I'd love to hear from you how this episode has helped you get clarity on how to hire, who to hire, how to hire what's next for you. Let me know in the comments. Better yet, feel free to go ahead and download that assessment so that you can figure out how to hire best what's next for you. If you are leaving this episode feeling inspired to uplevel online and make happy sales happen, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Now go out and take those steps to build your legendary life.